Well, wow. Holy jeez, did the color change from the test to now. Full on thunder and lightning out there. So I'm doing the headsets. I just tested the headsets, but when I tested the headset, it was a lot brighter in here. But so I turned on the fill light. Hopefully you can see. Oh, look at that. As long as I stay close enough, there's no reflection in the glasses. So today I've been asked this about the books that I read, um, mostly philosophy. Right. So the books that I just picked up in the last two um, Goodwill trips are pretty, what would you call it? Pretty average for what I grab, right? So the first thing I grab, and I've actually done multiple videos about this, it's one of my favorite books. This here is The Stages of Meditation um, by the Dalai Lama, or Tenzin Gyatso as his government name. Um, this, I believe, might be abridged. It says it's edited for audio. I can't remember exactly. I started listening to it, but it doesn't bother me really because I haven't been able to find a copy of this audiobook. So it'll be nice to have. I'll have to rip it to MP3. I think I have an old laptop that might do that. I have to remember how to do that. It's been a long time. What's cool about this is this CD, three CDs, is $125 on Amazon. It's about 25 years old. What I love about it is this is the heart of real meditation, Kamala Shila. This is actually the stages of meditation by a really old Vajrayana. I may not hesitate because he's one of the Tibetan, I guess, Indian gurus. We'll just say Vajrayana, right? Mahayana, Vajrayana, Buddhist, Kamala Shila, contemporary around the time of my Vasubandhu. But long story short, this is not available. It says it's available on Audible. I'll have to take a look, but I don't think it's the same thing. This one here is by, I think it's called Renaissance Audio. It's a very specific company. They do a lot of, yeah, Audio Renaissance. It's an audiobook on CD. Um, I don't know what to say, but it's $125 on Amazon. Now I got it because I love the book, and I should be able to rip this to MP3s to listen to on my phone. If not, I'll figure some way to listen to it because I love this book. So if you're looking for something about the heart of meditation, something that goes back to some of the really early teachings, and I know it seems weird, right? The higher order of Buddhism, right? Vajrayana, Tantric Buddhism, the Tibetan rite, whatever you want to call it. Um, you wouldn't think that would be the heart of meditation, but yes, so many traditions have lost their way. Um, but this here is really, truly the heart of what we're trying to accomplish here by becoming resident in the self, sati sampajanya. So I can't recommend this more highly. And I've also listened to it. It sounds like a really interesting Irishman that recorded it. So this book here, I haven't cleaned off the glue on the front yet, or even taken the price tags off now that I think of it. Just got home. This one here actually was interesting to me. The book is entitled Think by Simon Blackburn. It says a compelling introduction to philosophy. And on the back, they have Walter Isaacson, who is well known for being a philosopher. I just finished reading his, not a philosopher, a biographer. I just finished reading his biography on Elon Musk. It was an okay biography, but it could have been probably a third the length and lost nothing. But the back says Blackburn has produced the one book every smart person should read to understand and even enjoy the key questions of philosophy, ranging from those about free will and morality to what we really know about the world around us. Very interesting. Here, I'll give you that cover. Very interesting. Very zen cover. So here's the contents, right? It's quite interesting. right? Knowledge, mind, free will, the self, God, right? Reasoning, the world, and what to do. He has a very short bibliography, short notes section, and a very short index. But it reads very well, very highly rated online, um, and all of those categories are the reason why a lot of my videos, more so my podcasts, seem to be all over the place. It's because um, who and what we are, the self, the ego, that sort of jazz, really encompasses all of those things: thinking, reasoning, free will, God, the nature of reality. It goes on and on and on. So I'm looking forward to this one. This will be very interesting, and I'll make sure to share some of it if any of it's any good. Right? I was asked today in the Goodwill if I had read um, Nicholas Taleb's most recent book. What is it? Gosh, it's just on my. Oh, I can't look it up. I'm on the phone. Um, Anti-Fragile. And I told him I can't remember. It seemed like it was, but I tried looking it up on my app, but the internet wasn't working at the time. I told him I had read his Black Swan, and I liked it. In fact, I used that idea of the Black Swan in a lot of my talks. But what's most interesting is, yes, I actually did read it January 17th. And there's another one that, good book, worth reading, but could have been half the length that it was. A lot of filler in that one, right? So the next book I got is arguably the opposite of filler. This is actually essays by, there he is, Michel de la Montagne, or Michel de Montagne is what it says, but Michel de la Montagne, it's even longer than that, his original real name. Where is it here? Yeah. Michel Equem Seigneur de Montagne. Right? He's the son and heir of Pierre, Seigneur de Montagne. Some weird names, but de la Montagne is not. No, sorry. Seigneur de Montagne. It's excellent. If you've never been introduced to Montaigne's philosophy, I say fix that immediately. For me, his essays would be second only to Emerson, obviously, my favorite. But Michel de la Montagne, or Michel de Montagne, or Michel Seigneur de Montagne, wrote, well, tons of essays. The audiobook that I got was about 50 hours long. I think it was his complete essays, though. But this here is just a collection of essays. It's about 350 pages long. Selections of on idleness, on liars, friendship, on Democritus and Heraclitus, on books. Well, that'll be interesting. On cruelty, on presumption, on all things have their season. To everything, turn. And I know you might think. On repentance, on vehicles, on the art of conversation. Physiognomy. That's weird. See, he's all over the place, this Montag. He talks about some of the craziest things. But I got to tell you, remember I've said this before? This beautiful Penguin Classic I picked up for, I overpaid. I paid $3.99 for it because, gosh, how often am I going to come across something like this? I don't buy my books retail unless I absolutely have to. I usually wait till I can get a copy from a thrift store. But this one here, someone paid full retail price of $17.50 in Canada plus tax, so that would have been about $37 with tax. Right here, you have a book that's never even been read and never even been opened. Nobody's even went in and read the introduction. So that to me is sad because you can. Here you go. Here's book 2, chapter 10 on books. Les livres. I have no doubt that I often speak of things which are better treated by the masters of the craft and with more truth. This is simply a trial, and the French word is essai. It's like a trial or an attempt, right? This is simply a trial of my natural faculties and not of my acquired ones. If anyone catches me in ignorance, he will score no triumph over me, since I can hardly be answerable to another for my reasonings, when I am not answerable for them to myself, and am never satisfied with them. Oh, he's funny. Let the man who is in search of knowledge fish for it where it lies. There is nothing that I lay less claim to. These are my fancies, in which I make no attempt to convey information about things, only about myself. I may have some objective knowledge one day, or I may perhaps have had it in the past when I happened to light on passages that explain things. But I have forgotten it all, for though I am a man of some reading, I am one who retains nothing. It's funny. And it's so true. Like I said, when he asked me if I had read the Anti-Fragile book by, what is it, Nassim Nicholas Taleb. And I have read it. I returned it January 17th, but that was so long ago, I don't really remember. What I do remember, I went and looked at the bookmarks. What I do remember is I felt it was much longer than it needed to be. But I have no problem with Taleb. I really enjoy his idea of the black swan. So what else did I grab today, non-book related? Was this little dude here. I got to say, he's the cutest little dude. Look at him. Hi. He's got his little pot of gold. Some granny went and knitted this little dude. It's perfect for a Mick like me, right? He's even got little hooks on his shoes. It's just, I mean, they look like perfect little shoes, little belt buckle, his little shirt. I don't know what this fluff is supposed to be, but he's just the cutest little dude, right? We'll call him Felix Moore, which is my nickname. It means old gray man. Felix Moore. Felix Moore. He's cute. Hi. And he looks just like me. Is that crazy? I mean, I was a little more auburn in my hair color when I was young. But it's me, right? Corporate wants you to identify the differences in these two. Hint, they're the same. Right? So I love that little dude. Now, Saturday, we ran in real quick just for fun because we went out on an adventure. And on our way home, we had some time, so we ran in quick. And so throughout my youth, once I started paying for my own stuff, I stopped buying the expensive running shoes that just wore out every year. I spent a lot of time in the bush as well. So I started wearing army surplus. Like when I was young, my father would pay big money. He used to buy LL Bean boots for when it was wet out. I just wore rubber boots, special boots for each occasion, each need. I just wore combat boots. That's what I did. And then once I got older, I realized that shoes just don't last and also hard to find in a wide width. So what did I resort to? I actually started wearing Canadian parade boots. Now, when I was young, it looks like they're made the same, but when I was young, they were made from a much harder rubber. So the sole was pretty dense. It was pretty hard. Eventually, I moved on to Doc Martens, and I wore Doc Martens for years. But I went through about 3 pair of these, what they're called parade boots or service boots, technically. And I've fallen in love with channels like Rose Anvil, who talks about the quality of boots and how important it is to your feet. I think I may have let it slip how important taking care of your feet is. I was forced to stuff my feet into these really narrow shoes when I was young, so it's really done a number on my feet, right? So I had actually pretty much given up, and I was hoping that one day I could get myself to a store that sold Canada West boots. This is one of the last high-quality boot companies making boots in Canada. I was hoping to be able to find a store that made them. There's nobody anywhere near me. It's crazy. Like, they have towns that have a fraction of the amount of population that we have, and they have stores, but none around here. It's funny. But I was hoping someday I can, maybe get a pair. They're only about $300 still. So there's a little trick. Like if you're looking for a really good pair of service boots, but you don't want to pay $600 US, take a look at, this Canada West company. If you can either, get their package for proper sizing and fitting, or you can go somewhere to get it properly fitted and sized for half that price, and then after exchange. So you're looking at, actually, I was reading online and they were comparing the Canadian boot with the British boot, and they said that it was comparable to some of the best service boots available on the market. 360 Goodyear welt, real leather, solid leather inside, solid leather outside. I mean, it's just solid leather. Even the heel counter is solid leather. So you can't find a boot better made than that. Right? The equivalent would be $500 to $600 I've seen in the U.S. There's this one company in Canada, Canada West. They have a service boot just like the one I'm going to show you for about $300 is the retail. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little less. It depends on the retailer. They don't sell direct to the customer. So if you're, say, non-Canadian, 300 Canadian is the equivalent at about $35 American, right? So for about 40 or $50 American, well, heck, you can make it a vacation, right? So for a couple $100 American, you could come up to Canada, you could stay in a lovely hotel, you could have great meals, tour the country for a couple months, and get yourself a nice pair of boots, all for, a fraction of the price of a pair of service boots from the US would be. But went in Saturday just as a fluke, and look what I find. Not only are they the correct length, but they are the correct width. Look at these things. And don't worry about this. This is just somebody who went and did a really poor job of trying to do a parade polish, and it's flaking off something fierce. But you can see how wide these are. I need a wide. I wear a triple E shoe and boot usually, which is why it limits to me as to what companies I can go to for service boots, because they have to be a version in wide. Right? So I picked those up. I've been told that they're just as good as the British boots, as I said. That would make them as good as almost any boot on the planet being made today. I got them for $20 Canadian, which is about $3 US. And I see them online being sold anywhere from $50 for a rough pair to $200 and $300 for a new unissued pair. And if that were the case, I'd probably go with Canada West if you're going to pay that kind of money. Because most of the time, that's the real big freak. This is why I feel freaky. Not only did I find one of my favorite books in an audiobook that I didn't even know existed because I haven't really seen it available, but I got a pair of boots that I've been looking for since I was a kid in my size. And why that's freaky is every other pair of boots, you go and take a look at Canadian parade boots or service boots, Canadian military service boots. You can't find them for, any price in a size above 8, it seems. And my size is between 11 and a 12. I can't tell you for sure. But again, I think the fluke might have been that they're missized. The label that's in it just can't be the right label, because there's no way they're a 265. A 265 is like a size 8, and yeah, I wouldn't fit into a size 8. My wife would. In fact, it might be small for my wife. So yeah, definitely feeling pretty lucky about that, I got to tell you. Right? Because I've been buying pretty good shoes lately. Been buying New Balance. And even them I wear out. I mean, I'm getting New Balance, like I have a pair of boots I've put hundreds and hundreds of kilometers on, and they're only just starting to wear out. But they're a low cut shoe type boot. They're a waterproof shoe made exactly for what I'm doing, walking and in inclement weather. That's wearing out. I picked up a Rockport pair of boots, and they're already starting to show somewhere, but they've held together well. But anything less than a high end, and when I say high end, I just mean high quality, not high cost, right? Because again, a lot of this stuff I'm not paying full retail for. But if I don't get a high quality shoe, I ruin it almost immediately. Like Skechers, I don't know what it is with them. I can't even get a year out of them. Morel used to be great, but the last pair of Morels I got, I don't know if they stopped putting vibrant soles on their shoes, but the sole wore out before I even started to wear out the shoe, and that's shocking to me. Usually it should be the other way around, right? But So shoes, it's always been a big thing for me. I always wanted good shoes, and I just can't believe how lucky I was. So, a couple other books that I picked up that I'm really pretty chuffed about because of how rare and pretty cool they are. So this one here I found just recently as well. This is The Tale of a Nigun by Elie Wiesel. I've probably talked about Elie Wiesel before. I really enjoyed not just his book Night. I've actually read, I think I've read all of his books at this point. This is a poem he read that was only accidentally published in the 70s, so it was republished. It's a story about a prayer or a song, whatever you want to call it. And it's wonderful. I look forward to going through this and sharing it with y'all. Um, his story is poignant. Imagine imagine that experience. Elie Wiesel was a child in Auschwitz and survived and told the story. So the next book that shocked me to find was William Blake. This is his Songs of Innocence and Experience, illustrated in full color. But what's important about it is they did it in the original size, right? So you get the full experience of what it would have been like to read William Blake's book. It's wonderful. I really love it. I'll just give you an example. I have this open on London. Here's one of his poems. It's called London. I'll show you his actual page. You see, he put his text. He hand wrote it. His spelling was terrible, by the way, which is kind of cool for someone like me to know. These brilliant minds don't all have perfect spelling. But I love this idea. There's a belief that, well, hold on here. Let's just read the poem and you can just decide for yourself. So this is London by William Blake. I wander through each chartered street, near where the chartered Thames does flow, and mark in every face I meet marks of weakness, marks of woe. In every cry of every man, in every infant's cry of fear, in every voice, in every band, the mine forged manacles I hear. How the chimney sweepers cry, every blackening church appalls, and the hapless soldier sighs, runs in blood down the palace walls. But most through midnight streets I hear how the youthful harlot's curse blasts the newborn infant's tear and blights with plagues the marriage hearse. It's beautiful, it really is. And what I love about this is it actually tells you, um, what do you call it? Kind of like a, I guess, an explanation. I wouldn't say an explanation. Here, I'll read it to you what I mean here. It's kind of like a note. So it says, the mind forged manacles of the second stanza show that in this poem, Blake is writing of a mental state symbolized by the social injustices seen every day in London. It is a political poem. The term chartered applied to the streets and the Thames signifying the restricting effects of the charters and the corporations of the business world upon the individual. Again, the chimney sweeper's weep weep is called upon to illustrate social evils condoned by the church, and the soldier's unhappy lot is invoked as an actual stream of blood running down the walls of the state. Lastly, the manacled mind converts the marriage bed into a sort of Black Maria or hearse. This poem is one of Blake's most outspoken protests against the evil effect of industrial civilization upon the life of the individual. In the illustration, a child leads an old man on crutches through the streets. This bearded figure may be the creator, Urizen or Urizen, himself crippled by the conditions he created. Below, on the right, another little vagabond is warming themselves at a fire. I mean, it's beautiful. It really is. Right, so here's that picture sheet. You get an idea how it was explained to you. There you go. That's William Blake. And the reason why I love him so much is we wouldn't really know much about Blake if it wasn't for a great Canadian by the name of Northrop Frye. And he actually decoded William Blake's work. For years, nobody knew what his allusions and all his, ramblings were about until Northrop Frye figured out that it was a combination of Paradise Lost in the Bible. And now we have this wonderful artwork that I can tell you, when I study about self and consciousness and meaning and hope and theology, God, religion, you name it, when I read about this stuff, William Blake comes up quite a bit. So, final. I've told you this before. I've been collecting Bibles over the last year or two as part of my study here, mainly for readability, right? Because as a dyslexic, the font has to be right, the color of the page has to be right, the size has to be right. But then there's language. I think I've told you before, I'm a fan of the King James because it's what I originally read to read Nietzsche. So it has a nostalgia for me, right? Because I read the King James so I could understand Nietzsche better. But to be honest, the language leaves something to be desired, right? And so I've been looking for a while for what I would say, like I have a few. I don't really mind the translation that I use. But if we were to talk about my preferred, I do like the language of the King James. But I might argue that my top favorite here would be the New Revised Standard Version. What I like about this one is it actually comes with the Apocrypha, right? So as I'm studying Northrop Frye, I don't have to worry about finding another Bible that includes the Apocrypha. But once again, when I did get this book finally, believe it or not, it had never been opened. It still smells brand new, and it's actually 30 plus years old. The donation thing in the front is dated 1992. Never mind when it was published, right? It could have sat on a bookshelf somewhere. Because, it was published in 1990, but given to someone in 92. So what I love about this is the language. I've talked to you about this before. Right? Here goes Psalm 36. How about 35? I really like 35 for the message it gives. Contend, O Lord, with those who contend with me. Fight against those who fight against me. Take hold of shield and buckler and rise up to help me. Draw the spear and javelin against my pursuers. Say to my soul, I am your salvation. Let them be put to shame and dishonor who seek after my life. Let them be turned back and confounded who despise evil against me, who devise evil against me. As you can see, very, very readable language, but much, much closer to the original King James, and for the most part, closer to, that was Old Testament, so closer to the Hebrew. Same with New Testament, right? Let's see here, New Testament. Let's go and find maybe one of my favorite from the New Testaments. So, just open to 1 Corinthians, and then turn to, where is it here? 1 Corinthians, and let's all turn our books to 13, 12, and 13. In this particular one, they have chapter titles. It's double column with a chapter title. 13 in 1 Corinthians is called The Gift of Love, right? And my favorite line really is 1 Corinthians 13:13. And now, faith, hope, and love abide. These three. And the greatest of these is love. So, depending on the translation, they might change love to charity. They might not have the abide in there. Me being a big fan of the Big Lebowski, I love the abide. And I prefer the love translation because charity doesn't get to it. The reason why love is more important is because that's what we're translating here. It could be the Greek agape or caritas or philia or eros. But in the Hebrew, there was no question. We're talking about chesed. This is a love that transcends anything that a human can understand, right? You could be transgressed a million times and you still love this person to no end, right? But yeah, so that's, I just thought I'd share quickly some of the books that I picked up in my journeys in the last, I guess, week. Yeah, I guess that's about it. But yeah, so on that note, namaskar, shlancha. I hope you have a lovely day. And remember, life's too short to read crappy